1, 2,
3,
4,
5, 6,
7, 8.
Think about your closest friend or your dearest loved one. Look around. These people may be in the room right now. Now, you'd never do anything to hurt them, right? Well, however, imagine if you're locked in a cataclysmic struggle with this person over ideals. This is precisely what happened to Lewis Armistead and Winfield Scott Hancock. Theirs was a friendship torn apart by our greatest national tragedy, the Civil War. Now, at first, their friendship was born out of arms. According to historian Michael Telsrow, in his article entitled "Trust in God and Fear Nothing," published in the New American newspaper on July 10, 2006, he said that their friendship was started in the Mexican-American War. They served together in several battles and were even wounded at the same time. However, when peace broke out, they went their separate ways for several years, and then they were stationed together in Los Angeles. They only got a few years to enjoy each other's company when the American Civil War broke out. When the South seceded, Lewis Armistead, pictured here, was a native Virginian and elected to join the Confederate forces. His friend Hancock, however, pictured here, was a native of Pennsylvania, and he elected to fight for the Union forces. They had a farewell party to celebrate their friendship, and the party was recorded by Elmira Russell, Hancock's wife, in her book Reminiscences of Winfield Scott Hancock, published in New York. In it, she states that both men were emotional, and they wept aloud. Hancock embraced Armistead, and Armistead said, "Hancock, goodbye. You can never know what this has cost me." The next morning, they headed east, and they would not see each other again for 2 years. During those 2 years, they both became national heroes in their respective armies. According to historian David M. Jordan, in his book Winfield Scott Hancock, A Soldier's Life, published by the University of Indiana in 1995, Hancock was so renowned for his strategic abilities that he was nicknamed the Superb. Armistead also was promoted to brigadier general. By the time they met again, the Battle of Gettysburg had been raging for 2 long days, and it was the Confederates' last attempt to destroy the Union forces under the command of General Hancock. Armistead was ordered to take his men across a field that was 1 mile long, across open cover, and exposed to murderous artillery fire. This was the last attempt that the Confederates would have to destroy the Union forces, commanded by Armistead's best friend. Meteorologist Reverend Dr. Michael Jacobs, a man who lived at Gettysburg at the time, and whose writings were preserved by the Gettysburg Resource Center, writes that the day dawned 84 degrees, still and completely humid, with approaching thunderstorms. However, thunder was the least of the men's worries of the day. The silence was broken at 11 o'clock by Armistead's artillery fire that rained down upon Hancock's men. After 2 hours, the artillery fire ceased and Armistead's men advanced. Hancock, seeing his best friend's forces, ordered artillery fire upon Armistead. The result was devastating. As historian Michael Telsrow writes, the fire cut gaping swaths in the Confederate ranks, in the field ran red with blood. Armistead noticed that his men began to falter and felt like retreating as a result of the fire. Larry Tagg wrote in his 1998 book, The Generals of Gettysburg, published by Da Capo Press, as he reached the stone wall, sensing his men were hesitating, Armistead cried out, "Come on, boys, give 'em the cold steel." He proceeded to put his hat on the tip of his sword and lead the way, as displayed in this picture, and there he is right there. It was a brave act because it made him conspicuous and draw the attention of all rifle fire. Armistead noticed the actions of his gallant friend, and turning to his own men, and there he is pictured there. Turning to his own men, he cried, "Forward, men! Now's your chance!" The two forces met in a great countercharge. The Confederates were eventually beaten back, and the result was Armistead was heavily wounded, along with Hancock. In the Southern California Quarterly on December 1995, historian John Crandall writes that Armistead was found by Hancock's aide. Armistead requested to see Hancock before he died. However, he was informed that Hancock had been wounded. Armistead burst into tears and told the aide, "Say to General Hancock for me that I have done him and you all a grievous injury, which I shall always regret." Armistead died the next day without ever laying eyes on his friend. Hancock, however, recovered, albeit barely and after many operations. According to David and John Eicher in their 2001 book, Civil War High Commands, published by Stanford University, Hancock received the thanks of Congress due to his gallant actions at Gettysburg. However, the empty thanks of politicians must have seemed nothing compared to the great loss of his friend. Now, what can we learn from this story? Well, there are two lessons. One is that we can understand why the Civil War was so destructive, because it involved principled Americans killing one another for what they believed, and they're even to kill the ones they love for it. It also applies to our politically charged present. Look around again at those you love and think about fighting against them. Would you be willing to kill each other for political beliefs? Remember what happened to Armistead and Hancock.